put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yep, streaming live around the world on the internet and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Good morning, my friends. How are you? How was your weekend? How was the time off? Are you ready to dive back into the work week and get things done? I mean, for those of you who had a weekend, and I apologize for those who didn't, but I guess that's the way of the world, isn't it? Your weekend is on Wednesday or Thursday or something, so sorry about that. Anyway, welcome back to the program. It is Monday morning, and we are ready to put the fun back in Monday. So, as fun as it can be. Monday. I know. Some of you are like, time off, what's that? Well, I guess we all make choices. That's all I could say. That's all I could say this morning. Anyway, welcome to the program, and thanks for coming in and joining us. Want to say thank you to our friends over there at Satellite West for sponsoring the program and bringing us the show each and every week here. If you're looking for communications in the last frontier, especially at remote locations, things like internet, email, text messages, and phone calls, the folks over there at Satellite West are the ones that you need to call to get you all the details on how to do it, how to connect to the Iridium satellite network and take care of things. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Anyway, you can check them out at satellitewest.com. This morning on the program, we're continuing our discussions. We have got we got a pretty full week this week as far as candidates go. We've got continuing interviews all this week. Today, it's going to be libertarian Mike Insalaco is going to be joining us here in hour one. He is a libertarian candidate for House District 10. And then in hour two, we'll be talking with Sharon Jackson, who is the Republican candidate for House District 24, which is in Eagle River. House District 10 is in downtown Anchorage. So that is that's for today's program. Coming up on Wednesday, Cliff Grow, Jessica Wright, and then on Thursday, Rosalind Casey and Stephen Wright will be joining us. And all the way down to Friday, we've already got a guest for Friday. Zach Weissmuller is a video correspondent for Reason Magazine, and he's going to talk with us about the media's role in the prevalence, I guess I would say, of mass shootings. And we're going to talk with him about that on Friday. So already got a whole week of stuff lined up this morning. It's crazy, I tell you. And we are booking into next week with Josh Church, who is with the convention. Yes, is going to be joining us. Ginger Bryant and more. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. So that's the coming days already. It's a busy political season, and we like that. All right. So what is on the agenda for today? Before we get to our first guest, Mike Insalaco, let's talk a little bit about what is out there as far as headlines go. and everything else. Well, it's just I don't even know how to put this. It just seems like every time I come away, I go, I, I take a vacation, I take the weekend, and I come back, and I'm like, man, I keep hoping and praying that something will change but when I come back, it's always the same. And of course, it seems like it is always the same problems. David Boyle, who we've had on this program in the past, is an education advocate here in the South Central area, has written an article for Must Read Alaska talking about the $68 million fiscal budget gap that the Anchorage School Board is facing. Now, for those of you who don't follow the news or watch the ADN or read it on a daily basis, you're missing out on. I guess you're not missing out. You're not missing out on much. But what you are seeing is that it seemed like every third story that had anything to do with schooling in the ADN over the last 10, 14 days, 15 days, has mentioned the fact that the school district is hurting for this $68 million budget shortfall. And it's just like this constant beat of the drum that this is what's going on. This is what's going on. This is what's going on. 68 million. They keep hammering on that drum like this thing came out of nowhere. No, I will reverse myself on that, because one of the stories, and I don't remember who wrote that, if it was Iris Samuels or somebody else, but they at least had the honesty to say that this has been coming for a few years, that they've had some of these issues and they've kind of refused to look at them. Well, anyway, David Boyle wrote this article for Must Read. And basically, it says the Anchorage School Board dug a deep $68 million fiscal hole using the COVID one-time funds. He says, look, they've been kicking the can down the road for years, and consequently, they're now facing a $68 million budget shortfall. And the shortfall, he says, results from the bad decisions made since the infusion of the federal COVID relief dollars. Much of the deficit, according to Boyle, is due to the district using one-time federal COVID money to pay for reoccurring costs. For example, the district used $39.4 million in federal COVID money to pay for teacher salaries and benefits, which is that's not a one-time cost, right? That's not a one-time cost. The total expenditures, as he lays them out, is about $56.8 million. And he said that the State Department of Education and Early Development warned school districts to not use the one-time COVID money for reoccurring expenses. They said, quote, "It is your responsibility to communicate to your constituents that this approximately $504 million in funding statewide is a one-time addition to your budget. You should not make permanent programmatic commitments with these funds. You should communicate clearly to your communities the temporary nature of this funding and its intended purpose. In order to minimize the impact when these funds expire, school districts must wisely invest these one-time funds. For example, consider how you can focus on a limited number of short-term goals that promise the maximum benefit for your students in the years ahead." He said the Anchorage School District ignored the warning. He said, furthermore, the State Department of Education said it's important to understand that since these are one-time funds and given to the state of Alaska's current fiscal situation, do not anticipate a replacement of these funds with state funding when they expire. But that was what the district was betting on by pressuring legislators once again to increase the base student allocation and add additional funding to close the $68 million budget gap. See, that's the thing. They rolled the dice on this thing. They rolled the dice, and Brad Keithley talked about this here when this first story came out, 2 weeks ago, 2.5, 3 weeks ago? And he said, you can already see what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, well, we just haven't kept up with inflation. And you can, the Democratic candidates and the talking points is, well, we've got to fully fund education. Fully. What does that mean? We already spend more than any other, almost any other state in the nation on a per student basis. What does that mean? Well, the base student allocation hasn't been increased, and they haven't done. See, this is the thing. They rolled the dice. They spent the money, and they rolled the dice on being able to pressure the legislature to increase the BSA, the base student allocation, and to put additional funding in for students because they're facing a fiscal gap. I mean, it's insane. On top of that, since 2013, the Anchorage School District has lost more than 5,000 students, meanwhile continuing with a larger staff and excessive school buildings. And their capital improvement plan shows an even more dramatic downward trend of students. This projects a decrease of an additional 6,000 students by 2027. So going from almost 48,000, 50,000, 49,000 students in 2012 down to 37,000 students in 2027. And this is what's going on. The district acknowledges that 18 schools are less than 65% filled. That's based on their own space requirements, which they're different than the state's requirements. They're actually, it's all about changing stuff around. All about changing stuff around. This article is super, super interesting, and you should go take a look at it. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. You need to go take a look at it and read up on it. But again, don't buy into this whole idea of, we just can't do it. We're $68 million short and we didn't see it coming. Well, you saw it coming. You were warned that it was coming. You were warned not to use those monies for that purpose, and you did it anyway. Shame on you. Shame. Ring, ring, ring. Shame. Ring, ring, ring. You knew it was coming. But don't worry, we'll go back to the the Uncle Sugar at the legislature, and they'll take care of it for us. We guarantee it. That's part of the problem. That's what they've done for years. But eventually, there's no more blood in that stone. You could squeeze it as much as you want, and you can't get any more blood out of it. That's what it's going on. It's it's infuriating to watch. I keep going away for the weekend and taking the time off and doing all that. And all I can say, I keep hoping that something will change. It's that young childlike hope beyond hope that when I come back, somebody will have discovered it and got a clue. And nope, it's just as bad as what I left on Friday afternoon. And I'm just like, oh man. All right. We got to go. We got to go. We're going to, wow, that was way too loud. And I apologize. I don't know why, but we're going to try that again. We're going to be back with more here in just a moment. Mike Insalaco is going to be our guest. We're going to continue with him and kick things off, get his ideas for his candidacy there in House District 10. We'll be back with more in just a moment. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
I'm very disappointed, children. You're not listening. You're talking about barbecue instead of politics. Don't you know that this show is all about politics no matter what you do? No, I don't care. That's fine. It's fine. It's fine. You guys are just perfect. It's just, it's the perfect end for this, or for perfect kickoff for this perfect Monday. Oh man. The back-to-back commercials right this minute. First one talking about how Shabaka cost taxpayers $81,000. Don't you love those ads? That's from the Senate. That's from the Senate Leadership Committee. And they're the ones that are doing all those ads about Shabaka costing the taxpayers $81,000, staying 2 years and not repaying a dime. What they fail to tell you is that at the 2-year mark, she's not required to pay a dime. And it didn't matter that it was 2 years and 4 days. 2 years was the cutoff. I mean, yeah, it's McConnell out there doing his thing. EL. I'm sorry, Brian, I haven't had enough coffee this morning. Who is EL? You see EL is running for Matsu Assembly. Perfect is one of those words that's hard to use, says Rick. Whoever makes these soap opera drama hit jobs needs to be kicked in the shins. Oh, Eskimo Libertarian. Yes, I did see that. Yes, I did. I saw that. I saw that yesterday. She actually sent me a message. That's the only reason I saw it, because I'm not on social media all weekend. And she sent me a message saying she was running for assembly. So good for her. Good for her. Putting her money where her mouth is. I love it. All righty. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Look, as a libertarian, and when I ran for the assembly, I had high hopes. I hope that her experience is much better than mine was. That's all I can say. Because when people ask me what it was like to, run for assembly or to be part of the assembly, I told them this. I said, put your hand in a door and repeatedly slam the door on your hand until you're unconscious. And then when you wake up from that unconsciousness, start again. That's what it was like being a libertarian on a borough assembly with a bunch of people who wanted to do nothing but spend government money. That's what it was like. It was 5 years of pain. 5 years of pain. Now, there were some good things that came out of it. I was able to have some minor victories in the assembly, but for the most part, it was 5 years of utter frustration. So I'm happy that Eskimo Libertarian is going to go over there and do that and jump into it. Mike Insalaco is joining us. I can see that he is, my God, he's dressed and everything. It's amazing. So early in the morning here. Let's test his connection and everything else and see where he's at. See if we've got some good audio. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing good. I feel underdressed for my own program. It's amazing. So it's good to have you on this morning. Thanks for coming in.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on. All right, we are just a minute or two out here, so I'm going to put you back in the green room. Don't go anywhere. You sound good. You look good. Man, he's classing the joint up. What the heck? I'm going to actually have to go put on a tie or a scarf or a jacket or something. That's all fine. I'm all good for it. Folks, if you haven't yet, would you do me a favor? Would you please like and share the show? Would you like and follow the show page? Would you subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube and do all the internet things that I always ask you to do, simply because it gets more people involved in the conversation. That's what it's all about. So just do that. Do that now. Do it. And all right. $100 says this man is in some shorts from the waist down. Hey, look, I'm never here to judge. I might be in underwear right now. I will never tell you. All right, here we go, folks. Jumping back into it, the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like and share, like and share, like and share. Let's do this. Here we go. All right, welcome back to the program. Thanks for coming in and joining us. The Michael Duke Show continues. This morning, we're going to dive right into this with our candidates. We've been interviewing candidates for the last 3 weeks, and it's been it's been like taking a sip from a fire hose. Lots of information, lots of good stuff. And we continue. Now we're back down into the Anchorage area. This morning, we're going to be talking about, this is the Southwest Anchorage District, Ocean View, Clatt, Diamond, Huffman, and our guest is Mike Insalaco, who is I hope I'm pronouncing that right, he is the Libertarian candidate for House District 10. Good morning, my friend. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing great, Michael. Thank you very much for having me on the show today.
Well, I appreciate that. And did I pronounce it right? Is it Insalaco? Is that right?
Insalaco's right. My first name is Mikkel, though.
Mikkel.
A little different.
I apologize. See, that's
No
I hate that. I hate it when I screw up somebody's name, but that's okay. We're all good. So Mike Insalaco is our guest, and we're getting ready to dive into it. And so first things first, because probably many people have no idea who you are. Let's get a little bit of background: who you are, where you came from. Let's start there.
Absolutely. My name is Mike Insalaco. As Michael mentioned, I'm running for House District 10 here in Southwest Anchorage, which, I was born and raised here in Alaska. I'm actually a third generation Alaskan. My son now makes the fourth generation being raised here in Alaska. And I've lived and worked in Southwest Anchorage the majority of my life. And I've left Alaska a couple times, but for some reason, I always make my way back. And I don't know if it's the long winters or the high cost of living, but I do know this is where my roots are, and this is where I'm here to stay. I'm running because I have a family that I believe needs to be invested in now, and I'm going to do what it takes to make sure that I'm protecting our future together for everybody.
Yeah, I know when you leave Alaska, you don't know how, but it's that siren song that always calls you back. I left a couple times when I was younger and then came back and said, yep, that's it. I'm done. I'm not leaving again. So I definitely feel that. Well, Mike, Mikkel, what is the reason? I mean, I always ask people, what exactly did you lose your mind? I mean, what made you decide to jump into politics of all things? Based on, what you're doing right now. I mean, this is a commitment. What is the thing is there one thing, or is it like a cumulative thing that caused you to jump into the political game?
It was a big decision for sure because I worked for Alaska Public Media, and I've worked for other entities around the state, big and small. I've worked in marketing and communications the majority of my career, and have been awarded for both design work as well as strategy work. Even helped formulate the remote learning program for the school districts in Anchorage, as well as North Star Borough as well, and also worked on workforce development projects. And those kind of things really inspired me. But my heart wasn't really in the rest of the marketing stuff. I wanted to make change in my community, which is why I lived down in Washington for 2 years. Came back to Alaska because I realized I didn't want to invest any time or energy in a community or within organizations that aren't where my home is. And my home is here in Alaska.
Right.
And so I made my way back up, and I've been here back up since 2016, 2017. Like I said, I was only gone a couple of years, and after working for Alaska Public for a bit, I got to really observe a lot of the public sphere, and I actually decided to leave my position so that way I could help support candidates that I believed in, because I believe the only way to make a change is to be part of it. And so first, I left Alaska Public, helped run Sean Thorne's campaign actually as a communications director, and then after I saw a lack of what I saw was accurate representation of Alaskans, meaning everybody and all of our interests at both the assembly level and seeing that happen across the country, I wanted to make sure I threw my hat in.
It's interesting. I mean, did you? This is a sidebar, but did you have to leave your position to be able to pursue these things, or was that a difficult thing? I mean, or was it something you could have done conjointly, or was it something that had to happen?
It could have not. It would have. Looks like I lost
the video there, but I still got your audio there. So
all right, yeah, it should come back here in a second. If not, I can get it fixed up. Yeah, I'll get that back on here in just a moment. I'm going to back up camera. But yeah, so I could have not, I would not have been able to stay there if I, while pursuing political interest. But it happened to be at the right place at the right time. I was My wife ended up having some things that she wanted to pursue, so it made sense for me to step away from Alaska Public and pursue both. Have my wife have Ashley have her opportunities, and for me to support candidates where I'm passionate.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know. So as we look at these things, and of course, as we talk about it, one of the things that I, excuse me, that I love to ask each and every candidate is, you've now gotten a chance to go out and talk to your constituency. You've had a chance to meet and greet, and I'm assuming press the flesh and knock on doors and everything else. So, what are your constituents? What are the constituents in District 10 are telling you are important? I mean, is it the crime? Is it the budget? Is it the PFD? Is it the economy? Is it inflation? Is it schools? What is it that the majority of your constituents are coming to you and talking about and saying this is what we care about? What are those things that are important to them in that regard?
Well, the issues are spread. I would have to say, in my district in particular, what I'm hearing from constituents more than anything is they want to ensure that our education for our children is protected for the future, but not only financially, but from the perspective of giving them options that they feel best meet the needs of their children's future. So education's a big topic. PFD continues to be a really hot ticket item amongst every family that I've spoken with, as well as public safety. But more than anything, people just want to see a secure future financially for Alaska because I think everybody can agree that we have a lack of diversity in our economy.
Right. No, exactly. I mean, we are definitely a resource-based economy, and it's interesting because every area and every candidate that I've talked to in every area now has said that the PFD is one of those high things I mean, it's on the highest list. It's either the first thing or maybe the second thing that constituents talk about. But we are continually told by many politicians that, well, the PFD is okay, but we need to be able to spend it to be able to make your lives better. And I think most people are saying, no, we can figure it out for ourselves. What's your position on the PFD? Should the legislature be following the law? Should they be paying the PFD at a statutory amount? Should it be a sustainable PFD? Should it be a PFD that we can afford? I mean, I don't want to mince words. I want to figure out what is your position on the PFD as a total package.
Well, I have a few different ways I want to look at this, but first and foremost, I don't think that there should be anything but the law followed right now by the legislature. I think until they change the law or the people put up a bill proposition to essentially modify the PFD, or if the legislature puts forward a constitutional amendment that the people can vote on, I'm not for doing anything but following the formula as it currently exists. I am not for the state pilfering the fund because I don't feel that that is sustainable. It keeps postponing the inevitable question of is what are we going to do to continue to fill our coffers? And everybody's looking for one answer, right, for the state
Right.
coffers to be filled.
Right.
And I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. I mean, even looking at the various economic reports, especially from AEDC, you can see that we're putting our eggs still in just a few baskets when there's many baskets that they could be in. And again, it's not going to be one thing that fills that budget. It's going to be removing obstacles generally for businesses and opening those opportunities for Alaskans, so that way we can rely less on the PFD. Now, returning to the PFD, though, I believe if a constitutional amendment was brought forward, I would like to see some strong protections for the PFD, but then also ensure that if it's something where we do need to have a sustainable and lower amount, perhaps give Alaskans ability to access the capital in the form of loans.
Right. So
Because they already issue loans, why can't the people have access to those as low rate loans to invest in capital investments in Alaska while still receiving a PFD? Maybe
right.
a little smaller.
Right. So you're looking at, so again, just to clarify, statutory PFD, you favor that, not the leftover, not the sustainable, not the things like that. Would you, any changes to the PFD, would you put those up for an advisory vote in front of the people?
I honestly would like to look over all the options first before I move forward. I first would like to talk to the PFD management as well and just kind of understand how the fund could be diversified to include more Alaskan investments. That's the biggest thing. Even though the legislature may not have direct authority over how those funds are distributed amongst that group, I do think that it's something that we can help influence. Another thing I think would be interesting is that it's called a dividend. I think it'd be kind of fascinating if we actually treated it less of like more of like an actual dividend and had the state of Alaska and the people split shares.
Right.
I think that would be kind of interesting. And every year, residents get reissued their share, and it gets taken away as they're not eligible, and that kind of protects them and the ability as being an owner of that fund. Because one thing I think in this debate gets left out is what the PFD is for, which is substituting our right to manage our own mineral rights and
Right.
resources.
Right. But should the people have a say in, I guess what I'm saying is if we decide to change the statute, if we decide to go to what you're suggesting, again, like a POMV model, as you said earlier, like a 50-50 split or however we want to, any kind of fundamental change, shouldn't the people have a vote in that, or at least a voice in that, advisory or binding, one of the two? Shouldn't the people have a voice in that?
Absolutely. I do think that people should have a voice in that. Unfortunately, the people can, I think the best way to protect it is with a constitutional amendment. Unfortunately, the people cannot bring a constitutional amendment forward. They can, advise the legislature to do so, through ballots, and then they can vote on it once the legislature by 2/3 vote determines that they
Right.
want to move that bill forward. I would support, instead of making the decision for the people and having it all a bill be all in the House and the Senate. I would propose essentially having a constitutional amendment proposed, which would be voted on
Right.
by the people, that we can actually have protected for the long term.
Well, that actually brings us to one of the bigger questions. Of course, we've got the decennial Constitutional Convention question on the ballot right now, which would open up the Constitution to be able to make some of the changes, obviously not just on a single question. You're talking about a single question amendment, but basically opens it up for a new batch of delegates and basically says we can make any changes we want. And some have advocated, obviously, for enshrining the PFD, putting a spending cap in there, changing the way that we vote and retain judges. And of course, there's all other kinds of questions in there. What's your thought on the Constitutional Convention? Should we vote yes or should we vote no? Why?
I believe, personally, I am more for the constitutional amendment process, because I believe the people have a direct ability to influence it versus having to ratify any changes made by the delegates during a constitutional convention. So, to answer the question, I'm not personally for the constitutional convention. If the people choose to vote on it, then if I were elected as a legislator, I would do my best to represent the interests of the constituents as it pertains to the process, and then, of course, support delegates that I feel would best represent the community as they get elected for the convention. I think that opening it up is a little dangerous because we have some amazing protections that already exist within Alaska's constitution. Every time I look through it, I'm just amazed at some of the protections and how far ahead of the curve Alaska was with protecting people and their individual rights. How we continue to be that way as well. So I personally would like to protect the Constitution as it exists, but and if people want to bring forward ratifications, or if we want to do constitutional amendments to add some things, I'm totally for it. I do have a wish list in case that were to occur, but it's not something that I think is necessary for those things to occur. So.
Mike Insalaco is our guest. He is the Libertarian candidate for House District 10, which is the Southwest Anchorage area. We're coming up against the break time here, so we're going to continue with him here in just a moment. Folks, if you'd like to find out more, you can come online here. His website is housedistrict10.com, the number 10, housedistrict10.com. Mike Insalaco, our guest. We continue with him here in just a moment. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. That is what we do each and every day. We'll return in just a moment with Mike Insalaco. Don't go anywhere. Back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now with Mike Insalaco, and I see he was getting his camera squared away. You're all good to go there?
Yeah, I was just trying to get the other one working. I don't know why it turned off on me. My apologies.
No, it happens. This is the wonderful world of technology. That's how it works around here. All right. Why let's see. Bill says, why do they keep saying sustainable PFD? Isn't it based on market value? As long as they don't spend the PFD or the PF away, the dividends will always be sustained. I mean, and that's the truth. I mean, the dividends are based not on the permanent fund itself, but on the earnings of the permanent fund. And I love this idea of sustainability. The sustainability only goes away if they stop putting the 25% into the permanent fund and they stop retaining the earnings. That's the only way that it's no longer sustainable, because it will always spin off earnings, sometimes big, sometimes small, but it will always continue to spin off earnings. And I think that's a great thing. But we've heard a lot of that, Mikkel. We've heard, the terms sustainable PFD. We've heard the terms reasonable PFD. What we have not heard is really from many people is the statutory PFD. Follow the law. Here's what the law says. The law says it'll be it'll be 21% of 5 years, and yada, yada. Basically a 20% rolling average of what the fund earns, the permanent fund earns over the course of 5 years. That's a pretty good formula. I mean, it takes in the ups and downs. It takes in the bull markets and the bear markets, and handles all those things. It kind of inflation proofs everything. It's a pretty good system when it's all said and done, right?
Absolutely. And the biggest thing is that when I hear sustainable, for me, it's a matter of it's not sustainable for the state to rely on those funds and to take from the people. That's what's not sustainable to me. The fund itself is designed to be sustained. I mean, that's why it's called the permanent fund. And
Yeah.
as a result, it's something that unless for some weird reason everybody gets paid back their mineral rights and given the opportunity to participate like they do in Oklahoma and Texas with their own property rights, then I think the PFD needs to be treated exactly as the law says.
As we say around here, hashtag follow the damn law. That's pretty much how it should be and how it should go as we're moving forward. When we get back here, we're going to dive into this and talk about some of the other details of the budget. You've talked about the constitutional amendment process through the legislative side of things, which, I mean, in a theoretical world, would be great, would be perfect. The problem is that there is no political will to change. I mean, that's like the lunatics have got the keys to every door in the asylum, and you're like, come on, give me the keys. Give me the keys. Give me the keys. And they're like, no. We don't want to give those up. I don't know as there is the political will for the legislature itself to pass constitutional amendments. Do you, I mean, in watching it and observing it, do you think so?
Well, the biggest thing is right now, I think that people understand and they've read the room. Everybody I have talked to is sick of one thing in the legislature, and that's the bickering and the continuance of these issues that never get resolved. Because what ends up happening is that we don't ever address the other issues that affect us on a daily basis. And
Right.
everybody can agree on that. And I know that there are a significant number of candidates and voters that are making their decisions based off of that. I'm only hoping that the people do their best to hold the legislature accountable with their voice when it comes to not making this decision. Because if there isn't a constitutional convention that allows that to be protected, we're going to know after November whether or not the people decided on that. And if they didn't, then the next move the legislature needs to make is deciding how they're going to protect the PFD or how they're going to move forward with it. If when it comes down to it, I think you do have a bit of a struggle in the Senate and getting that taken care of, because we've seen the PFD get repeatedly beat up in there.
Well, that's right. I mean, as you said, it's the one issue that keeps getting batted around the room like a volleyball. I mean, that's all they're talking about. It's sucking up all the oxygen in the room. And yet anytime there's been, I mean, the governor's tried to put a constitutional amendment in. Some of the Republicans have tried, and it has gone absolutely nowhere. And so that's why I'm wondering, if there is the political will to get it done in the legislative side of things, and if it won't take a con to make it happen.
I guess we'll have to see. My biggest answer is I think that I do have faith in the people to elect candidates that are standing on that platform of protecting the PFD by any means possible. Because I've heard it enough that I'm hoping that's where people put their votes. And when it comes down to the legislators doing it, that's a whole other story with
Yeah.
politicians.
We'll have to see. All right, we're 30 seconds out here. Mike Insalaco is our guest, libertarian candidate for House District 10, which is in Southwest Anchorage, and we're going to continue our discussion with him here in just a moment. Folks, please like and share the video, like and follow the show page. No, it doesn't matter where you're watching us, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. You can like the show. All we need you to do is to share the show and then to follow or subscribe or ring the bell or do whatever you need to do. Let's get back to it. Here we go. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio, The Michael Duke Show. Okay, welcome back to the program. Continuing now, our guest is Mike Insalaco, who is the Libertarian candidate for House District 10, which is Southwest Anchorage. You can find his website is House District 10, the number 10, housedistrict10.com, and you can find all of his different ideas and his issues and everything else laid out there. I want to get into some more of the details, Mikkel, and talk a little bit about some of the solutions that are possible out there. We obviously are spending more, in this state budget than ever before. We've obviously got one of the highest budgets on a per capita basis of any state in the nation, and yet we continue to seem to have all these issues and problems. The biggest budget lines, of course, from health and social services and education and everything else. I mean, when you look at this and you look at the budget of the state, do you think that do you think that we are spending too much, not enough, just right? I mean, where do you put us, and what are your thoughts on solving, depending on where you're at, on solving the issue?
I kind of come from two perspectives here. I'm all about trimming the fat, first of all. I think, that's something that we can absolutely do with nearly every department across the state. And I don't mean that in any way that's, to be disrespectful to state employees or people in positions that are valuable or have created value. But I do believe that what COVID taught us more than anything was the fact that businesses and government can adapt, or they don't. And then life goes on, right? So, businesses and people can adapt if given the opportunity to. And I also believe that there's a lot of solutions out there when it comes to governing people and addressing a lot of the issues that we see that don't need to have a reinvention of the wheel happen. What I mean by that is that with workforce development in particular, I believe solving the issue of workforce development is going to bring more money to the state in general. There are plenty of projects. When anybody looks at Alaska, right, and they want to do a construction project, immediately you're looking at, if you want to make any type of investment, the cost of labor is high here, not just because of the cost of living, but because of the fact that there's not enough people here to do the work.
Right. When you say solving workforce development, demystify that for us. I mean, what are you talking about when you say solving workforce development issues? What does that mean?
Yeah. So right now we're struggling. What I mean is that the workforce development issues that we're facing right now is, we have tens of thousands of jobs coming our way with the infrastructure funding. Whether you like it or not, Alaska is going to be improved with all these great federal funds. And when that happens, there needs to be a substantial workforce in order to support those things. But even before we get to that point, right now between transportation and construction, we have thousands of jobs that are unfilled and high paying. And it doesn't make sense, because what ends up happening is that we bring people from outside of Alaska, and those people have to get paid more money because of course, moving expenses, all that other stuff, plus their cost of living. They had to go to Alaska to do this work, right? And a lot of the money doesn't stay up here. And as a result, all the cost of everything here in Anchorage to employ people in other industries will rise. And so what the way to solve that is to look at what industries are suffering when it comes to workforce, right? And right now it's transportation and pretty much all of the trades. And when we look at what the solutions are, well, Alaska Works Partnership every week through various businesses are doing free employment training. And when I was working at Alaska Public Media, we had the opportunity through Alaska at Work to survey students, survey businesses, and see where that disconnect was. And we created a whole program dedicated to eliminating the stigma of you need a 4-year degree in order to have a successful career, right?
Right.
And we learned that that stigma was still very strong. And not
Right.
only that, people don't know where the resources are to get started, even though they're already there. So we spent all this money on state programs. Alaska Works Partnership, I think, which as it's funded through the state through grants and other partnerships, it does good work. But the funny thing about it is, what all they're doing and it's pretty powerful is connecting businesses that want employees and are willing to provide the training. So why aren't we introducing this to schools? Why aren't we introducing this across the board to ensure everybody has these opportunities?
Right. Education, of course, obviously, again, the second biggest line item in the budget. We continue to have subpar scholastic achievement scores. We're in the 48, 49, 50th place out of 50 states, yet we spend ever increasing amounts of money. And now we're hearing, especially in the Anchorage area, oh, we're underfunded, $68 million hole. We need to increase the BSA. The answer seems to always be more money. Is the answer more money, or is it a fundamental shift in how we do business and how we do things? Is it changing the system? Because obviously we've been throwing ever increasing amounts of money at the same system for years, and it still appears to be broken. So what is the solution in your mind there? Is it consolidation? Is it bringing school districts together? Is it, is it creating more efficiencies? Is it consolidating schools, or school districts in this case? What is the answer?
I believe, I'm going to return back to what I mentioned a minute ago with COVID, and I hate to, throw that in the bucket again. But the thing is, COVID showed us again that the education system, when we were at Alaska Public, we created a at-home learning program through television that we worked with ASD and North Star Borough to create. And when we did that, we learned that there wasn't a whole lot of preparations for at-home learning and extra material to help keep students engaged when they're at home outside of just, here's some books, right? And so we helped provide that, and it was a great service. But the thing is that it helped me see that there was a big gap in education, but they adapted quickly. So what's funny is the school districts over time they adapted, and for better or for worse, I think everybody saw quite mixed results with what happened with remote learning. What we learned is not every student learns the same. Some need in-school format. Some do just fine working, remotely. I have friends with young children that actually succeeded pretty well because they're independent. But I had some other children of friends of mine. My kid's too young to go to school at the moment, but that also had a similar experience. But then some not so much, right? Where their child struggled to keep attention and didn't feel like they learned much when they were working from home.
Right.
So what I'm getting at is I believe the education system absolutely can be reworked. Just even looking at what we trimmed down in order to accommodate students with remote learning. I'd like to see what we could do to identify ways to save money by reinventing our school system. And I know there's pain with any change curve, but frankly, I would like to see some way for us to, whether it's through a constitutional amendment or to work within the bounds of the Constitution to allow students more choices in their schools. So I am an advocate for the for school choice and for a school voucher. With how much money is spent on each student, and considering how much private education charges in Alaska and how much better they're able to deliver, both in Alaska and across the country, I think it's a worth thing looking into.
So like backpack funding, where the funding follows the student rather than going straight to the school. That's something you would support.
Yeah, I think in the very least, I would like parents to be able to have a choice to have a large portion of their education covered if they choose to go somewhere else. Either way, whether it's following the student directly or whether the base student allocation plus local funding allows for there to be a voucher given to parents and each student. The thing is that when you look at how much public schooling costs per student, we're looking at between $17,000 to $30,000, depending on where you're looking at it. Versus private schooling in Alaska can be between $8,000 up to $20,000, but tends to deliver significantly higher test scores. And I'm not talking even about religious institutions. Places like Pacific Northern offer some very competitive tuition, and then they also even subsidize the tuition with grants from their own members and their own parents. So
Right. We're down to the last couple minutes here, and I know you said you had a slew of things that you wanted to do. So if you can wrap that up here in the last couple minutes and give us an idea of what those things are, and then your elevator pitch and how we find out about you, that'd be great. So I'll give you the floor.
Well, I think, more than anything, what I want to do is remove obstacles for Alaskans to be able to live their life. I don't believe, and as a libertarian, and the main reason why I'm running as a libertarian is because I don't believe that I know best how to run your life. But I do believe that as long as you're not harming others and you're doing what you can to improve your life and the life of those in your family, then you should be able to do what you want to do. And when it comes down to what government's supposed to be doing, it's supposed to remove those obstacles to ensure that you can live your best life, that Alaskans can pursue businesses, that we have more cost-effective infrastructure, but not through funding, but through essentially removing those obstacles to have both private and public infrastructure created. With what I want to tackle is I want to, I mentioned with or without a constitutional amendment, I'd like to protect us from future taxation. I think having that protected in the Constitution would be great, but any type of protections against that would be outstanding. Looking at opportunities for school choice and protecting our PFD. And outside of that, I just don't want to create any additional structures that can be abused by future government. Funding expenditures that can, go on forever, or laws that essentially can be abused because, our current administration we might agree with. But if that same law can be abused by an administration 5 or 10 years down the road, then it shouldn't happen now. And I want to make sure that every Alaskan has their individual rights protected. I don't want to discriminate who has the right to defend himself with the Second Amendment. I don't want to discriminate who gets to be able to go to school, who gets to be able to work, who gets to love and live their life as they choose.
Mike Insalaco, House District 10 candidate. Are you doing any meet and greets? Where can folks find out about you? Go.
Follow me on Facebook for sure. I'm going to be doing some pop-up coffee stuff here this week, actually. So I'll be popping up around schools in the morning, standing on the sidewalk, or probably right around this time between 6 and 8 a.m. or so, giving away free coffee and donuts occasionally in exchange for some great conversation. Also, I'll be hosting some events here real soon before the primary. So follow me on Facebook and keep posted.
Okay. HouseDistrict10.com is the website. Mike Insalaco, thank you so much for coming and joining with us this morning. Hold the line, folks. We got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Thank you.
Mike, I'll give you one final bite at the apple in case there's something that we didn't get to or something we missed. I always like to give the candidates one final bite with just the Facebook crowd here in case we missed anything that you wanted to hit on today. So I'll give you the floor.
Absolutely. The only other thing I want to mention is that I believe that decision-making needs to be restored to Alaskans at the most local level whenever possible. And this includes our fishery boards. There's way too much influence from outside of Alaska on our fisheries. The trawling industry in particular is something that, I'm not usually against, intervening in the market, but when it comes to trawling, it's absolutely destroying our fisheries at a rate that is unfathomable. 10% of all salmon caught in 2020 were a result of trawling. And in fact, more king crab was caught as bycatch and disposed of than king crab fishermen caught in 2020.
Yeah,
it's disgusting. And it needs to be restored back to Alaska at the most local level. And fisheries are just the first part.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that having seen those fisheries firsthand and seeing the damage that the draggers can do, it really worries me for the future of what's going on for sure. I mean, what we can control inside our territorial limits anyway ought to be controlled for sure. All right, Mike Insalaco, House District 10, thank you for coming on board and good luck. We look forward to seeing what happens here in the general. Only 4 or 5 weeks away now. I mean, it's just right around the corner. All right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you coming on board this morning.
Thank you. Anytime.
Thank you. All right. Mike Insalaco, our guest. We've got Sharon Jackson. She's going to be coming up here in just a few moments, and we're going to be talking with her as well. I don't know what, and there he quoted the Satanic Bible. I don't know what, you guys are, some of you guys are like, wow, you're wandering around in a creepy deep end today. What is going on? I'm just going back here and reading some of this stuff. You guys are killing me. All right. Let me, okay. I'm sorry. I'm going back through here. Okay. All right. Sorry. Got phone calls, phone things, text messages, the whole deal. Okay. Sharon Jackson will be joining us here in just a moment. We'll be talking with her. She should be coming on here in just a hot second. Early voting is happening now, says Chris. Yeah, people can go get their job on and get things going on. Let me make sure that I see Sharon Jackson here. Suppose I need to open up my email and make sure that there's no problems. Okay. Okay, got it. Look at that. All right. Man, I got some emails that I didn't even know about. Okay. So, we've got coming up this week, Josh Church is going to be joining us, and hopefully that will be with us next week. We're keeping our fingers crossed. Josh Church is with the convention, yes, and that should be a good discussion. Hey, look at that. I see somebody in the green room. It looks like my friend, the lovely Sharon Action Jackson. Good morning, my dear. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Michael. I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good. Well, it's good to see you, and I appreciate you coming on board and joining us this morning. We're all ready to dive into this with both feet. You prepped and ready, got your coffee, and you're all ready to go?
Ready to go.
Okay, good. All right. Well, good. I'm going to put you back in the green room, and you can hang out there for just a minute. Sharon Jackson is our guest. We're getting ready to do our thing. Been a while since we've talked to Sharon. It's good to see her out there doing her thing, and I'm excited to see. What happens here in the next few weeks. Barbara Haney says early voting for FNSB Assembly is ready. If you're ready, vote Barbara and Brett for Assembly, Les and Melissa for School Board. I guess the school board race, from what I'm hearing, has been one of the most contentious school board races in quite a while up in the Fairbanks area. That was always kind of a dog-eat-dog world anyway. Fairbanks, when I ran for office up there, it was definitely it was definitely interesting. It was definitely a little combative, but I'm glad to see that folks are engaged and ready, and I guess we'll see what happens. But Barbara and everything else, early voting for the borough assembly and the school boards are up right now. So if you haven't gone in and done it, you might want to beat the rush, get that early voting in, and get it done right now. And Mikkel, there we go. Thank you, Mikkel. Mikkel just joining us in the chat room saying thanks for having you on. Appreciate you coming on. I'm interested to see what happens in House District 10. I'm interested to watch what happens across the legislature right now, especially in regards to the business as usual crowd. We've got some members of the business as usual crowd running to come back, including Sharon's opponent, Dan Sadler, wanting to come back. He's been wandering around talking about how what we really need is a binding caucus, which that makes me scratch my head. That just makes me scratch my head. We'll have to see. Where Sharon stands on this, although I'm pretty sure I know. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Folks, make sure, again, you like and share, follow. Let's get things going on. Here we go. Hour 2 dead ahead, The Michael Dukes Show. Common Sense Radio.
put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
That's right, across the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find the audio-only live stream and links to all of our social media sites, including Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, where we simulcast the show every morning, as well as our podcasts and more, and streaming across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. It is The Michael Dukes Show. Hour 2 of the big radio show, and we're continuing with our candidate interviews. We just finished up with Mike Insalaco, who is the Libertarian candidate for House District 10 in Southwest Anchorage. Now we move slightly north up into the Eagle River area. And this morning we are going to be joined by our friend Sharon Jackson, who is, of course, a candidate for House District 24. She comes on board to join us this morning to talk about all of the good stuff that's going on in the legislature. Good morning, Sharon. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing wonderful. How's
Thanks.
the Common Sense crew?
You know, everybody's doing good. The 6 o'clock club is rocking and rolling, and we're glad. Although now we're into the 7 o'clock hour, we're ready to go and jump in and talk about things. So, Sharon, it's been a while since we had you on. You have been absent for a little bit, but gone but not forgotten, so to speak. And I'm glad to see that you're throwing your hat into the ring. Why don't you give us a little bit of background of who you are, where you came from, for those folks who haven't met you before or don't know much about you. Tell us a little bit about Sharon Jackson and where you come from.
Good morning. Sharon Jackson comes from Pennsylvania, came to Alaska back in '83 by way of Army. I was active duty and, of course, love Alaska and made it my home. I've been an advocate for small business for many years, protecting them, warning them on legislation, both state and national, and how it would affect our family businesses.
Right.
I worked for Senator Sullivan because we met on the streets as I was advocating for small business, and joined his team as a constituent liaison, which I loved because that's working directly for the people with federal agencies. But sitting there looking out the window in my backyard, I was watching our state crumble, and my spirit was compelled to do something about it. We have to start at home. So
right.
I served in the last session, the 31st session, by way of appointment. I ran for lieutenant governor to protect our election process. Go figure. And here we are today. But it definitely wasn't a waste. I say God has this sense of humor. I never had a desire to be in the legislative branch. However, serving the people in Juneau, I felt like I was where I needed to be to benefit the people of Alaska to the maximum. I did not win my last election process by reason we left Juneau early because of COVID. So we had the law of the land hunkered down except for essential reasons. I thought sitting in a leadership position, being conservative, And we were doing contact tracing, so I could see my face on the front page of ADN for contaminating my district with COVID. So I dared not go and knock on doors. And as many of you know, I did lose my mother through that campaign process as well.
Right.
So yeah, that it was tough, but you know what? The last 2 years has been amazing. I've served on 3 national boards, 2 state boards, and I feel like I'm bringing more to my state with the resources and the people I've been working with for the last 2 years. So it's all good.
Yep.
I'm
Well,
here.
we know Sharon Jackson is a fighter. We know who she is in a lot of ways. For those of you who've never heard Sharon before, her speech pattern might be slightly odd to you, but she is a stroke survivor. And that's, again, you just keep getting it out there. You're one of the hardest working people I know, and overcoming things like that definitely shows, I think, that stick-to-itiveness that we need and the perseverance that we need in a good legislator. So it's good to have you on board. Well, this race, Sharon, we're watching it. And of course, we've seen who your opponents are. And as I was talking about earlier, kind of that business as usual crowd, which is the good old boys network, so to speak. And I'm curious as to what your take is on everything's out there. Now, this time around, you're able to go around to your constituency, right? And talk to them. So
Yes.
tell me what are people in your area, the Chugiak Eagle River area, what do they care about? I mean, is it the crime? Is it PFD? Is it inflation? Is it the budget? What is your constituency saying to you? What is like the number one issue, number two issue that you're hearing about as you go door to door?
Okay, so the number one thing I'm hearing is people are fed up with the status quo of business as usual in Juneau. And then here in Eagle River, our people have been deceived. You know, we say we're Republican, we get in and do whatever, not listening to our people. And I find that's the most frustrating aspect. As far as the issues, parental rights, PFD, crime. So, family values is a major concern out here, and families being able to raise their children how they see fit versus outside coming into the home to raise children and limiting the rights of the parents. So
Right.
we have our work cut out, that's for sure.
No, absolutely. Here on the program, of course, one of our fundamental topics is the PFD. And I know that, that has been you've been part of that. You've seen how that is the volleyball that gets batted back and forth in the legislature and sucks up all the oxygen in the room. I mean, should we finalize and finish this PFD issue? I mean, should we just pay the dividend according to what the statute says, or should we keep fighting about it? Should we keep tapping into the PFD? What's Sharon Jackson's position on the permanent fund dividend?
We have a statutory PFD, which is law. So we need to obey the law and pay the people accordingly. I see it, the PFD is separate. So it should have never been brought into the table of the legislative body.
The
And
budget.
it's time, yes, it's time to get the PFD off the table. We have some major issues to deal with. And if there's going to be any changes, the people need to change it. And then we need to do as the people have us do. But yeah, it's the law. It's worked.
So, I mean, is you're suggesting that, that means, we've got the Constitutional Convention question ahead of us. And of course, much of the talk about the con is, of course, enshrining the PFD formula in the Constitution so that the legislature can't choose to ignore it without breaking the constitutional law. So is that what you're advocating here? That as a con, we need to vote for a con and get the PFD enshrined, the statutory formula enshrined in the Constitution?
Yes, I say Yes. Now, understand, I understand that it's a two-sided coin, right? And we understand that, there could possibly be dangers, but what makes me believe in the con is you. You get to choose your delegates, and whatever takes place in that convention, the people get to vote on what passes and what don't. I
Right.
still believe in we the people. I believe that we as a people are underestimated, and it's an insult to think a few people are smarter than the whole body of people.
Right. I'm with you. I mean, I was very leery at the beginning of the con, but the more I realized that there were stopgaps, there were checks and balances, that it had to be ratified by the people, that the people elected the delegates. I agree. I was very nervous, but the more I came to realize that there were guide rails in place, the more I came to realize really it's the only solution we have. I mean, you've seen the dysfunction firsthand in the legislature. If this
Yes.
was off the table, we could actually get some work done down there, right?
That's absolutely correct.
I'm hopeful that more people will see that. And your constituency, I'm assuming, would really love to have a full PFD. I mean, right? I mean, that we'd love to see what that could do for the economy.
Absolutely. I would stand on the floor and ask, who do we think we are to know better than you how to spend your money? With the COVID-19, it knocked the wind out of our community business. If we gave a statutory PFD, could you imagine how many businesses would have been saved or started for that matter? We need to
Right.
keep the money in the economy.
Absolutely. Sharon Jackson is our guest, GOP candidate for District 24, which is in the Eagle River area, Chugiak Eagle River area. Sharon, you've got your opponent out there talking about a lot of different things. Well, you've got a couple opponents, but the one that I'm thinking about, Dan Sadler, has been part of this before. Again, what I would consider to kind of be the business as usual crowd. And he's been going around and talking to different venues, talking about what we really need to do is go backwards and go back to a binding caucus to talk about. Now, we've talked about the Charter of Changes on this program with you in the past. And one of the major components of the Charter of Changes is changing the rules so that the binding caucus does not exist. That the conflict of interest rules are enforced, and that the Open Meetings Act are enforced. Do you still believe in those changes? Do you still believe that we shouldn't have a binding caucus?
I do. I believe in those changes because they're principled changes. And when you're talking principle don't change, right? Integrity doesn't change. And I agreed with Senator Shower. He had a press conference when I was in Juneau, which I sat on with him to get rid of the binding caucus. So, when you look at the last 4 years, we have made steps forward, even though we were in the minority, despite the people sending a majority of Republicans in.
Right.
But nevertheless, we have great legislators like Ben Carpenter and Sarah Vance and Ron Gill. We have wonderful people, but as I see it, with Dan Sadler, and don't get me wrong, this is not personal. This is business. He served Eagle River for 8 years. I voted for him 3 times, but there is always a problem when, I don't know, some people say they drink the Kool-Aid, but it's not about that. I believe Juneau brings out who people really are, and we can't go backwards. And I believe with the experience, we have Rep. Kathy Tilton as the leader of the House right now.
Right.
Are they coming in to bully them out, to bring back the way old business as usual? I don't call them rhinos. I call them Walker Republicans. And we just can't afford it, quite frankly.
Sharon Jackson is our guest, GOP candidate for District 24 in the State House. We're going to continue with her here in just a moment. We got to take a quick break, so we'll do that here right now, and we'll be back. Don't go anywhere. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Back with more right after this. Don't go anywhere.
What is that?
Common sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Dukes Show. Radio.
Okay, Sharon Jackson is our guest. We are in the commercial break right now, so let me go back and see if there's any comments for Sharon here in the chat room, or any comments going on overall. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling back through here to see. Okay, nope. Okay. Joel says, wow, she acknowledged how dangerous it is. Amazing. And that is the con-con. The con-con, I think we all acknowledged it. Anybody that was looking at it understood that it is a two-edged sword. You're opening up the Constitution for many, many changes. Luckily, not only do you get to elect the delegates and have them be in there with your voice, even if it is the most contentious split ever in delegates, the people still have to vote on what is coming out of the Constitutional Convention. So we still get a check. Right, right, Sharon?
That's right. The people are the boss. When I go door to door, I tell them, hopefully I'm meeting my new bosses. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, yeah, you are meeting the boss. Here's the boss. That's the people. They get their final bite at the apple on that, and it's good to see and good to know. All right. What else we got here? This lady's absolutely amazing. She's the one we need to see back in Juneau. So that's good to see. And yeah, I would love to see you back in Juneau down there. We're seeing this push by many in the legislature who have been ousted in the past, but the business as usual. I'm thinking, the Kathy Giesels, et cetera. And the Dan Sadlers, who were part of that crowd that for years refused to address the issue and instead supported spending billions of dollars out of savings to balance the budget. I mean, that's one of the things that I think that this new crop of Republicans, these conservative Republicans, have really said, is that they are there to try and bring that spending under control, because we no longer have the billions in savings to fix that. Right, Sharon?
That's right. We do not. And, I tell you what, if we spent as much money in empowering people and bringing them up as we waste money, keeping them down, we really don't have a problem. We have a mismanagement problem. That's what I believe.
Right. Well, I think that there's a fundamental philosophical difference here. As you said, you don't know how to spend people's money better than they do. But there is a whole contingent in the legislature that believes that wholeheartedly. I mean, that wholeheartedly believes that they know better than you how to spend your money. I mean, anytime I see them talk about it that way, or say things like, it's government's job to create, or it's government's, place to create jobs and things like that, all I can think of is, no, you're wrong. It's the private sector. It's the private economy that creates jobs. The public sector, the government, is a net consumer. They're not a creator. They need to get out of the way, right?
Absolutely. If we put as much energy as in growing our community businesses as we do growing our government, oh my gosh, again, that's half the battle. We don't have problems that we're saying we have.
Right.
We need to, let the people get back to taking care of the people's business, and the government need to take care of their business, which is the budget, safety, which is major. Look at Anchorage, it's unrecognizable.
Right.
And as they say, so goes Anchorage, so goes the state. So we really need to take care of the business at hand, which is our budget and our safety.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. The question is, what does the Constitution require, right? Public
That's
safety,
right.
infrastructure, education. Those are the three things we're supposed to have. Everything else is extra. It's nice to have, but it's not must have. Those three things need to be done. All right, we just heard the ding. We got to jump back into it here. Sharon Jackson is our guest, The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Share the show, like this video. Let's do it. Here we go now. All right, we're continuing now. Sharon Jackson is our guest. She's a GOP candidate for House District 24, which is in the Chugiak and Eagle River area down in Anchorage. She's up for election, or I was going to say running for re-election, but she was out this last cycle. So she's back doing her thing here, trying to make a difference. She did a lot of good work, I thought, when she was down there the first time. We were just talking about the PFD and kind of the attitude, that politician's disease of we know better than you how to spend your money, which has been a big problem historically with politicians the world over for the last 1,000 years. We just happen to be seeing it here in the state of Alaska firsthand and in a big way. Sharon, you talked about being for a statutory PFD, for enshrining it. You're in favor of the con. You're in favor of people being able to take back what they need. What are some of the other issues? I mean, we're looking at, the state budgets. Is it too big? Is it too small? Is it just right? What are your thoughts on where the budget is, and what do we need to do moving into this next session?
Well, the budget is way too big. I would like to see a constitutional spending limit also put in the taken care of. And the thing is, I don't know, and I know this is foreign language, so hold on everyone, but what about a zero balance budget, right? If we enshrine, yes, if we enshrine the a spending cap, that's going to take care of that, right? And then we're still going to have to be creative and balancing everything out. And I believe if everyone comes to a committee saying how much they need for their administration or whatever department, and we see that they have what they need to do what they do, it will allow more accountability. See, there's a lack of, transparency and accountability. Let the people see everything.
Right. No, zero-based budgeting. I mean, we've advocated on this program. That's number 4 on the Charter of Changes, is changing the way that we budget. I mean, we would love to see a zero-based budgeting, or even a budget that's based on a 4 or 5 year rolling average of what the revenues have been. I mean, at least it would be a good starting point. Instead, it seems like we just stick a pin in where we were at and say, how much more can we spend the following year? It seems like it's always an automatic increase. I mean, the education budget, we keep coming back to that, but it is the number 2 line item in the budget as far as the size. And yet we spend all this money, we spend ever increasing amounts of money, exponentially increasing amounts of money. And our scholastic achievement is in the bottom of the barrel. I mean, we come in 50th and 49th out of 50 states on many things. We've got a graduation rate where 1 in 4 students does not graduate, even at those low scholastic scores. And yet all they say is, well, what we really need is more money. What we really
Yeah.
need is a base student allocation fix. What we really need is if you just give us more, we could make it work. But we've been doing that for the last 25, 30 years in this state, and it's not changing. Nothing is changing.
Well, Michael, as they say, you can't use the same thinking to get into a problem to get out of a problem. We need to look at options. There's many options, and there's many people with wonderful ideas. One of my favorite things about meeting people, going door to door, is hearing their ideas. And young and old. I love to talk to our young people because guess what, people? They're not dumb either, you know?
Right.
And as I tell them, my community is my caucus. They are the boss. I'm going in to work for them. I have no agenda but protecting my district from eh, it's not like we haven't seen examples, in other states, other countries, when you lose control of or taking the freedoms from the people. We must protect our freedoms. They're taking them, and once they take them, it's hard to get our freedoms back. So we need to protect ourselves. And I tell you what, I will go in all day to protect the rights of our people.
You've mentioned the COVID pandemic a couple times because it had such an effect. Obviously, it has a lingering effect on everything that we're doing for the most part. But one of the silver linings that came out of the COVID pandemic was the fact that that people discovered that they could take control of their own child's education. That
Oh,
with
yeah.
distance learning or learning pods or charter schools or all these other things, that they had a much better handle on what their kids needed than anybody else did. Do you believe that we should be offering citizens of the state, kind of backpack funding or voucher spending or something where they can make the choice for their own children's educational needs?
Absolutely. And not only educational needs, but we need to let the parents make the social, their social beliefs. Um, that belongs with the parents, not outside, We definitely need a backpack. Yeah, the money should follow the students. The
Right.
parents know how each of their children learn. And you hear it all the time. People with multiple children have different learning styles, but trust them to educate the child. And I believe we would be much better off as a society.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I have 5 children and each child has a different, one kid just eats it up doing it online and everything else, and he gets his schoolwork done in 2 hours a day, and the other one struggles all day to do the same kind of thing because his learning style is different. And so we have to adapt and we have to be able to do that. And you can't do that in a classroom with 20 or 30 kids. It's impossible to try and adapt the learning style for all those kids. So yeah, backpack funding seems to make the most sense in that regard as well. Sharon, again, size and scope of the budget, size and scope of government. What would Sharon Jackson do getting down into Juneau? What would be your plan as, the first few weeks of the session would kick over? What are you going to be focusing on as you get down into Juneau?
Well, again, focusing on the budget and something else we did not talk about. Why can't we do a 2-year budget? Why do we have to do it every year? When you work with legislators across the country, I think we are one of the few states, not many, do a budget every year. We need to change that to a 2-year budget. um, we have a lot of work to do. Besides the budget, I would like to see a certificate of need. We need to do some work on that because what I'm convinced of, people are not feeling well. When
Right.
you don't feel well, you don't do well.
Right.
And when we look at our country and all this noise going on, I think is bigger than black and white, R's and D's. I think is good and evil. I'm just saying. I believe we're dealing with a spiritual warfare that's showing up in the things that we can see, touch, and feel. And I know I say I should wear a body cam when I go door to door, because the majority of people think like we do. They're frustrated like we are, and they're good, just Christian based people with a beautiful family, want to be free to raise their family, make a living, and go about their business. They should not have to worry who we elect. Are they going to be authentic and do what we ask or not? So I tell them, when I take that oath, I'm making a promise to God to do right by the people. Michael, there's no room for a personal agenda, lust for greed or power. Our job is to take care of the needs of the people.
Right. Sharon Jackson, our guest, GOP candidate for District 24 in Eagle River and the Chugiak area, joining us this morning to talk about things. So, what are some of the things that you would focus on, Sharon? Give me your hit list. If you walk into the legislature tomorrow, what is your hit list? What are the things that you are going to immediately focus on as you go in through those doors there?
Okay, so let's talk about healthcare for a second. So in the last 2 years, one of the boards that I serve on is Veterans in Pain. So for 2 years, I experienced veterans healing through the modality of regenerative medicine, which is stem cell hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And Michael, I've witnessed miracles. At least 3 were confined to wheelchairs, and now they're up living a productive life. I would like to see some more options as far as treatment for
Right.
healthcare.
Right.
We are a right to tri-state. All we need to do is change the language, get the certificate of need in place. I don't think our big hospitals should be threatened by other options.
Well, more choice is always better. I mean, that's my problem with the certificate of need issue is you're treating people like somehow they can't make the best decisions for themselves, requiring the government to intervene whether or not a medical business can open. That should be up to the market. The market should decide, do they offer something that I can use? And is it something that I want to try? That's what should happen with a certificate of need. People should be able to make their own choices in that regard.
Yes, and the major first order of business is organizing as a majority, because I'm sure, okay, I have enough faith for all of us. I believe we're going to send a majority of Republicans in.
Right.
We need to make sure that, I believe over the last 2 sessions, we built a cohesive House and Senate. Or I just pray we keep, Senator Shower and Holland, But
Exactly.
I am feeling the pain of, if you're too conservative, like, that's not being favored at
Right.
all.
No, they're definitely not the popular kids in school.
Oh no, I'm the stepchild, but you know what? That's not going to stop me.
Right.
It's not. So I don't have to have money from the party. Like, they act like I don't exist. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to disrespect, but I'm trying to share my experience,
Right.
and it's as if I don't even exist. So that makes this the people's race. This is all about the people.
Sharon, we're coming down to the end here. I want to give you the last couple of minutes to give people your elevator pitch. Why should they vote for you versus your opponents? How do they find out more about you? I posted your link in the chat room a couple times here, but tell folks how they can get a hold of you. Are you doing events? What are you doing? Here's the time for your final, your final pitch. Sell us on why Sharon Jackson is the choice for House District 24.
Thank you. Well, I have been a conservative Republican, loving my Constitution forever. So I've never voted any other way. So what you see is what you get. I am having a fall festival fundraiser at Lions Club here in Eagle River on Sunday afternoon between 3 and 6. Come on down, show your support. I need your help. I need your help. To see you inspires me, but we're going to have good food. We're going to have auction. We have a semi-automatic shotgun, a 22 millimeter ammo, Alaska furs. So come on down. You can reach me at jacksonforhouse.com. And it will be an honor and a privilege to serve the people of Alaska again. Though I'm running in District 24, Chuyak, Eagle River, when we're in Juneau, we represent all of you. And again, it will be an honor. I can't be bought and I won't be bullied. So let's get the people's work done.
All right, Sharon Jackson, House District 24. Sharon, thank you for coming on board this morning. We appreciate it. Hold the line for just a second, folks. We got one final segment coming up. I'm going to open up the phone lines if you guys would like to sound off on anything this morning that you've heard or things you'd like to discuss. That's what's coming up next. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll be back with more right after this.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
Okay, Sharon Jackson is our guest. One final bite at the apple. I always like to give folks one more chance, Sharon, just in case there's something we didn't hit on or something that you wanted to cover. Now's the time. We got a couple 3 minutes here in the commercial break, so I'll give you the floor and let you just pontificate on whatever it is that we may not have gotten to or anything that you want to sound off on before we let you go.
Thank you very much for having me. I miss being on the show, but I watch you every morning. You are my cup of coffee. Our event on Saturday is a family event. Bring the kids, bring the whole family. Yeah, we're going to have hay rides. It's going to be amazing. But you know what? Don't be discouraged. Like, encourage people that you can trust that will go to Juneau and represent you. We are out here. If a stroke didn't take me out, this nonsense won't. So let's get this work done.
Now we got to fight for it. We got to fight. I mean, I think that there are more people out there that, like you said, are more, kind of liberty-minded, conservative, independent, kind of maybe they don't belong to a party, but they need to know that there are other people like them out there. And it's good to know that folks like you are still fighting for it and making it happen. Where's this event on Saturday one more time in case people missed where it is?
It's at the Lions Club Park here in Eagle River. It's an indoor event. So, right down from Walmart. Okay. I think everyone knows where Lions Park is, but that's where we're going to be. And we would love to see you.
All right, Sharon Jackson. Again, you can find her at jacksonforhouse.com. And get all her stuff in there. It's always good to see you, my dear. And we hope to see you again soon as a representative again. It would be good to have you back in there, and we hope that you persevere in this battle here for State House. Thank you for coming on board.
Thank you. Keep up the good work out there, Michael. Okay.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you. Sharon Jackson, our guest here, the Michael Dukes Show. All right. That means we are coming up on the final segment. I guess that means that I need to turn on the phone lines and do all that stuff, huh? Let's get that all squared away here this morning and get stuff ready to rock and roll. All right. This is going to pop for a second for you guys. I'm not going to, boom, there it is. It just did it. Okay. We'll try one more time. And there we go. Okay. So hopefully, yep, we didn't want to get everything squared away. Okay. All right. We are now ready to take phone calls. See how that worked out? Worked out real good. Real good. All right. Okay, phone lines are open, ready to go. Go Sharon Jackson. Go Sharon Jackson. The event is Sunday, said Jim, not Saturday. Okay, so it's Sunday. There you go. Okay, keep up the good work. Politidic says, Big Lake had his first frost this morning. Fuel oil is double what I paid last year. The swamp in Juneau could have helped cover my $12,000 in additional costs this year because of the record-breaking inflation. Instead of doing the right thing and following the law, they lined the pocketbooks of the swamp with $18 billion, stealing $14,000 from each and every Alaskan, totaling $10 billion from Alaskans. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you look at what's going on and you look at what people are having to do. I mean, when somebody goes to fill their fuel tank and it's a 500-gallon fuel tank and it's $2,500, yeah, that's a pain. That's pain right there, my friends. That is pain like there ain't no other. It's definitely frustrating to see those things come around. All right. I like Sharon's vibe. Not gonna lie, says Daniel. Yeah, me too. I like her too. She is a firecracker. And when you realize what she's overcome, it's tough. I mean, she overcome a massive stroke and is able to, I mean, she wasn't able to talk for a while, and now she's able to go out there and function and fight and do all those things. It's good stuff. She does good work. Definitely an inspiration for many folks. All right. We are coming up on it. We are about 40 seconds out right now. It looks like we've got one line on hold. We'll take that call here on the other side and see what they have to say. Been listening. Sharon's one of the best, says Robbie. I agree. She is awesome, and she would be great in Juneau. I agree with that as well. All right. Jumping back into it, here we go. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. If you haven't liked and shared, I would appreciate if you would like and share and follow and do all those things. Let's get back into it. Here we go. Jumping in 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome back to the program. Thanks for continuing with us. The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense Radio. One final segment. Now, coming up on tomorrow's program, we're going to have Brad Keithley and Chris Story. On Wednesday, we're going to be talking with Cliff Groh and Jessica Wright. And on Thursday, Rosalind Casey and Stephen Wright. So full boat this week. Full boat going on. So I love to see what's happening here. Let's continue on these discussions now. I've opened up the phone lines at 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. And we're going to take some calls here in the last segment of the show, see what you guys care about, see if there's anything that caught your ear on this morning's interviews or what. Let's start off over here, and we'll say, good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Randy in Fairbanks.
Hello, Randy. What's up?
Well, I just agree with you. Sharon Jackson is inspirational, having gone through some of the hardships she's gone through. What I wanted to talk about is we have the local election coming up here in Fairbanks, and I guess probably elsewhere, local elections. And we have the city mayor's race. And I wanted to urge people to be very careful of who they vote for Fairbanks City Mayor. There's two candidates running, Valerie Therian, a city council member, she is, and David Cruz, who served 2 terms on the city council before. And I'm strongly in favor of David Cruz. I am very much afraid of Valerie Therian. I have nothing personal against her at all. I've seen her around for years. I've hardly ever talked to her, maybe a sentence or two. But anyway, seems like a nice person. But her programs are horrific in my view. And as I've mentioned to you before, she voted for that sweeping authoritarian anti-discrimination ordinance back on February 25th, 2019. It was passed by a 4-2 vote in the city council by the 4 left-wing members there. And it would have brought about unnecessary burdens upon local businesses, intrusive measures. And if anyone wants to read about 6093, that ordinance, they can go to my website at keepfairbanksfree.com, and they can see just how dangerous this ordinance is, and what a tremendous burden it would have been, and how it takes away freedoms, our basic freedom to choose.
Right.
And so please watch before you step out into traffic and get run over if you vote for Valerie Therian, because I called her up on the radio when she was on Problem Corner on September 2nd, and I told her, you seem like a nice person and everything, but I'm scared to death that you'll get if you were elected mayor. And I talked about 6093, and she, in the course of that conversation, said that she would support it if it came up again. And the danger at that time, we had Jim Matherly there to save us. They passed it 4-2.
Right.
He pondered that for a few days, and then he vetoed it. They tried to override his veto. They needed 5 votes. They couldn't. But this time, if she is mayor and we get just 3 left-wing, which there's some running for the office right now, if we get 3 left-wing council members on there, she will cast the deciding vote, and Fairbanks will never be able to get rid of that law, and we'll lose our freedom the level of freedom that we've had since 1903.
Right.
So
no,
be
exactly.
Careful. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Yeah, that was the perfect storm when that ordinance was put forward. That was the perfect storm, and it was only because of the courage of Mayor Matherly that thing was defeated. And you're right. I think that would be a very, very dangerous precedent. And I think that if she did get elected to office, that would probably be on the agenda shortly thereafter, because that's something that they've wanted to get in there for a while. I agree with you that I think Cruz is the choice there for people who want smaller, more limited government and don't want those kinds of overreaches. I couldn't agree with you more on that, Randy. And I agree with you. I hope that folks are listening and paying attention out there. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. If you would like to sound off this morning on anything that went out, what do you think of the candidates? What were your thoughts? I liked a lot of what Mike Insalaco had to say. I think that he had some good points. I again disagree with him on the con simply because I think that leaving the people the final choice is not a bad thing. Now, as somebody pointed out in the chat room, I think it was Jim earlier on that pointed out in the chat room that, hey, the people are the ones that voted in, like Murkowski and he listed a bunch of stuff. The people voted for Walker. They voted for ranked choice voting. They voted in liberal borough assemblies and city assemblies and Murkowski. So it's not that the people are infallible. It means that we must stay engaged. So if we're going to have a constitutional convention, we must be engaged at every level. Otherwise, something could go wrong. They could make a change in the Constitution, and if we're not paying attention, it may be something that's detrimental. It means that we have to It means that we have to continually be engaged. We can't grow weary in well-doing. And the Constitutional Convention is a long process. So it's not like we can start and then stop paying attention. We've got to continue to pay attention from start to finish. And we're talking about a 3-year process here, folks. So we definitely need to be, really, really paying attention to that. But I still support that. I was initially very nervous, worried about it. Now, not quite so much. Not quite so much now. I think it'd be a good opportunity for us to make some of those changes that I just think that there's not. I mean, that was the only thing that I disagreed with Insalaco on was I just don't think that there's the political will to fundamentally change things with the legislature itself. Now, does that mean we've got to just change out more? Maybe if we changed out more of the players, maybe that would help. But in the meanwhile, there's just no political will to make all those things happen. It's just not working. So anyway, we'll have to see where this goes. How this all plays out. But I, for one, think that right now the Constitutional Convention is the only way we're going to be able to make the changes that are needed in the legislature, because they being the legislature, obviously just don't have the political will to make it happen. The business as usual crowd is continuing with the business as usual. That's what they're doing. They're moving forward and they're steamrolling full speed ahead. And of course, trying to get back in there with people like Kathy Giesel and Dan Sadler and others who were part of the problem. I loved what Sharon said. You can't use the same mindset that got you into a problem to get you out of a problem. And that's do we want to continue to send the same people back that got us into the problem? Or do we want to come up with some, something new? That's the question. All right. Well, that's it for today. We're coming up on it. Tomorrow is another one. Joining us on the show tomorrow, Brad Keithley and Chris Story will be with us tomorrow to talk about the weekly top 3 and our weekly life coaching lesson. Then on Wednesday, candidates Cliff Groh and Jessica Wright will be joining us, followed by more candidates on Thursday, all the way out to Firearms Friday, where Zach Weissmuller with Reason Magazine will be joining us. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. All right, my friends, we are out of time. We will see you tomorrow. Be kind, love one another, and live well. Even those that are mad at you, love them. We'll see you. All right. Somebody just called in at the last minute here. And, of course, we ran out of time. But why not? Let's take a call. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Carlene in Kodiak, and I did not want to be on the air, but Michael, listening to Sharon Jackson, I just have incredible peace. It's that she just has no deception in her. And I really appreciate your covering people from all over the state, because we get to know them before they actually get to Juneau again.
Yeah. Well, I think Sharon is one of those rare gems that is, again, what you see is what you get. And I love that about her. And, she, like you said, she has nothing to hide and she does a good job. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Carlene. It's good to hear from you. I hope things are
Please encourage her. I just wanted her to be encouraged.
You bet. Well, maybe she's listening right now. We'll make sure that we pass it on. Carlene from Kodiak. Thank you so much, Carlene, for coming on board this morning. All right, folks, we got to go. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Incredible. It's incredible. It's she just no deception.
She nothing to hide. She
So what the way to solve that is to look at what industries are suffering when it comes to workforce, right? And right now it's transportation and pretty much all of the trades. And when we look at what the solutions are, well,
It's incredible. It's she just no incredible.